From their conversation, I gather that before my vision began, Jesus had preached and cured in Nain. But the Pharisees and scribes pay little attention to that. They instead harass with questions the people of Nain for details of the disease of which Daniel died, of how many hours had elapsed between his death and resurrection, and they ask whether they had completed his embalming, etc., etc. Jesus pays no attention to such investigations and converses with the revived man who is very well and is eating with a wonderful appetite. But a Pharisee calls Jesus to ask him whether he was aware of Daniel's disease. I was coming from Endor by mere chance, as I wanted to please Judas of Kerioth, as I had pleased John of Zebedee. I did not even know I would be passing through Nain when I set out on our Passover pilgrimage, replies Jesus. Ah, had you not gone to Endor deliberately? Asks an amazed scribe. No, I had not the least intention of going there at that time. Why did you go then? I told you, because Judas of Simon wanted to go there. And why that fancy? To see the cave of the sorceress. Perhaps you had spoken about it. Never. There was no reason why I should. I mean, perhaps with that episode you explained other witchcraft to initiate your apostles in what? To initiate anyone in holiness, there is no need of pilgrimages. A cell or a desert barren land, a mountaintop or a solitary house serve the same purpose, providing there is austerity and holiness in the teacher, and the will to become holy in the disciple. That is what I teach, and nothing else. But the miracles which your apostles now work, what are they if not wonders and the will of God? That is all. And the more holy they become, the more miracles they will work through prayer, sacrifices, and obedience to God, by no other means. Are you sure of that? Asks a scribe, holding his chin in his hand and looking Jesus up and down. His tone is rather ironical and pitiful. I gave them those weapons and that doctrine. If among them, and they are many, there should be anyone who becomes corrupted through base practices out of pride or for other reasons, he will not have received such advice from me. I can pray to see the culprit redeemed. I can undertake hard penance in expiation, imploring God to help him, particularly with the light of his wisdom, so that he may see his error. I can throw myself at his feet to entreat him with all my love of brother, master, and friend to abandon his sin. And I would not consider that a humiliation, because the price of a soul is such that it is worth suffering any humiliation to save that soul. But I can do no more. And if, after all, he perseveres in his fault, the eyes and heart of the betrayed and misunderstood master and friend will shed tears and blood. How much kindness and sadness there is in Jesus' voice and expression. The scribes and Pharisees look at one another. They exchange meaningful glances, but say no more on the subject. They instead ask young Daniel questions. Does he remember what death is? What did he feel when he came back to life? And what did he see in the gap between death and life? I know that I was suffering from a mortal disease, and I suffered agony. Oh, what a dreadful thing. Don't make me remember it. And yet, the day will come when I will have to suffer it once again. Oh, Master. He looks at him and is so terrified that he goes pale at the idea of having to die once again. Jesus kindly comforts him, saying, death is in itself expiation. By dying twice, you will be completely cleansed of faults, and you will rejoice at once in heaven. Let this thought make you live a holy life, so that you may have only involuntary and venial faults. But the Pharisees returned to the attack. But what did you feel when you came back to life? Nothing. I was alive and healthy, as if I'd awaked from a long, sound sleep. But did you remember that you died? I remembered that I was very ill, in agony, and that is all. And what do you remember of the other world? Nothing. There's nothing. A black hole, an empty space in my life. Nothing. So according to you, there's no limbo, no purgatory, no hell. Who says there isn't? Of course there are. But I do not remember them. I think I better pause there for a moment. It seems like slightly strange, to say the least, for somebody in the 1st century AD to using terms like limbo, purgatory, not hell, but limbo and purgatory. And really what I would say this is, and I've produced a video on this over a year ago, the apparently incongruous language. So we have references to limbo and purgatory, which are very much Catholic terms. What seems to have happened here is that you've got a 1st century AD conversation in Aramaic, probably Aramaic, and terms are used which are not transliterated into our language, but Jesus is ensuring that Maria Valtorta hears in mid-20th century Italian the words limbo and purgatory, because those are the closest terms corresponding to what was said in Aramaic 2,000 years previously, or 19.5 centuries previously. So the word limbo, the word purgatory, and indeed the word hell is not on the lips, or not on the lips of that boy Daniel, because these words are actually spoken in Italian anyway. But the terms themselves are similarly not on the lips of the lad. But the underlying meaning is the same. The Pharisees are showing that they regard it as a doctrinal fact that there is a place called limbo, a place called purgatory, a place called hell, even though the language they use in Aramaic and Hebrew would not be the same as those words we have in mid-20th century Italian or in 21st century English.